tweet is out, and I think everything's running like it's supposed to. Just a few reminders before we get started. We do have maintenance today. It's only supposed to last about an hour, the usual time, which is 4 a.m. PDT, 1 p.m. CEST time. We've also got the space chase currently running. I think today happens to be the last day for a couple of the decor cases, and then the Creative Echo chits goes on for a few more days. So if you haven't gotten involved in that, this is probably your last few days to get into that. Also, a few things of note that have been added to the cash shop. There's the Fancy Pants Decor Pack, which includes, I think, table, a couch, and the assorted, let me just pull it up here, the assorted stained glass windows, I think. Yeah, here we go. We've got the one that you can craft, and then these are the other ones. We've seen them kind of showcased in the previews using Katya's add-on for a long while now, so it's really nice to see these become available for those that would like some different kinds of designs for their churches or other kinds of stuff. There's also something else. I thought there was another one. But you can see that the summer, the sandcastles and the surfer and the alien decor pack, there's an underwater one. There's been a lot of nice additions. I myself haven't gotten settled in to actually purchase any, but I probably will definitely get at least one of these. So yeah, just a few things to note. There's also, I think, a Dev Connect about the space chase events, or the chase events in general. I don't remember what all it entailed, and I think they changed how they do the Dev Connect. I think it's more, rather than a discussion thread, it's more of a kind of an update of what they're doing with the events. I know they mentioned that the monthly events that they've been running, they're going to be changing that to more like a housing quest line kind of deal, so that you can unlock the different prize packages regularly on a rotation. So we'll see how that goes, but you might want to check it out and see where that is headed. Good morning, Bones, and anyone else that happens to be lurking around. I did get a note from Poi this morning that she won't be joining us. She might be able to drop in later, depending on how long we run. But yeah, some things with the car having to do its repairs and stuff. So good luck to her on that, and hopefully we get to see her next week, if not sooner. So yeah, this week is Europe's turn. We're on Jabbit-EU for some sneak peeks at some houses that I've come across or have been suggested to by others. It just so happens, I didn't realize it until just now when I was looking around, but it just so happens that the first two homes are actually by the same builder. I didn't realize it at the time, and I've already kind of slated them off, so I'm not going to switch it around. Usually I try to tend to veer off from that so that I give multiple builders a little bit of a spotlight, but it just so happens that I picked two that happen to be from the same builder, which again, I didn't realize it at the time, so apologies on that, but kudos to the builder, because obviously their ideas are eye-catching enough that it caught my attention, even though I didn't realize it was by the same person. And that person would be Bubbles. You can see that they've taken to signing the plots. I don't know if it's just guildmates of theirs, friends of theirs, or it's an outright commission. There are some builders that will work for pay, either by materials or actual plat, that people will pay them, and then they will build a plot for that person. But you can see that they sign it with the detonator blinkies. We've used it for many signs. A lot of people like to use it for exit signs. I've used it for my bakery sign. It's the thing where it's individual little blocks, so you can imagine how many pieces they had to use to spell out by bubbles. But it's a clever way of kind of signing your work, so that you know or are guaranteed that you get some kind of credit for the build, rather than it being accredited to the owner of the plot. Some don't worry about that. Myself, I've never signed anything that I've actually built for someone other than my paintings. I do leave a little signature on those, but some of them aren't even able to put those on there. So anyway, so this is Dominion Castle by well, it's on the plot of Quicksilver Autobot, but as indicated by the signature here, it is by Bubbles. I don't recall the full name of Bubbles, but I'm sure if you see Bubbles in the name, you'll know that that's who that is. It's the only Bubbles that I know of, so this is, as far as I can tell, there isn't any bunker house. I went all over the place. I looked for little hidden doors and stuff, and I couldn't find where there was a path leading to that. So I am going to assume that it was specifically left covered. It could be that it's not a bunker house. It could be it's an actual prefab home that's just been covered up by the obsidian stones that they're using for the mountain area. It could be that it's just the construction site. They didn't even bother putting a home on it at all. We've seen several examples of that, and so that's very possible that that's what this is. It's a good way of saving money. It makes no sense to buy the three-plat bunker house if you're just going to cover it up and not use it anyway. So who knows what it might be. Obviously, this person requested a specific type of home, and this was Bubbles' interpretation of it. And like I said, I couldn't find how to get in. If that is not the case and there actually is some kind of hidden path, my apologies if I didn't spot it. But yeah, so first and foremost, we're just going to go around the grounds on the lower part, and then we'll go upstairs or up to the mansion itself. But you can see they've utilized some of the Dominion walls and pillar pieces from the cash shop decor set. There's a whole bit that includes walls and stairways and things like this, some pillars and little extra accents. It's all Dominion related. You can see this is a good example of how it's sometimes good to have the no clutter. Obviously this is kind of raised up because it's level with the platform. It's a snowy hill upside down. So you can see the white puffs of snow as you walk, but even if it was perfectly flat with the actual ground level, this is a great way of showing a pathway that you want your visitors to take. Everything's nice and smooth, there's no clutter, but they've added in grasses, so there's like unkept areas, and then a path where it would look like someone has walked quite a bit and worn the grasses down. Morning, Aurora. Glad you could join us. I was hoping to get a note from you about your plot being finished. I was going to add it into the tour this week, but since I didn't see anything and I was waiting for you to reach out to me about whether or not it was done, I thought, well, maybe 2 weeks from now. So yeah, let me know if that's finished. I couldn't remember if you'd said you were actually done or almost done, and I didn't want to get into it when it wasn't actually ready. So let me know if it's done, and I will definitely add it in for the next time. So yeah, they've got the Dominion, I forget what they call these, like the bunker or something. There's a Exile version, and then there's a Dominion version, and that's this one here. Ah, okay. Well, I'm glad I held off then, because I didn't want to show it before you were actually ready. So yeah, got 2 more weeks. Hopefully you can squeeze in some build time by then. If not, no rush. I'll certainly hold off until you're actually positively ready. Here's another one. Then here's a great example of alternative uses for the walls and ramps. They decided to turn this one into a bridge for the waterway. Excuse me. It looks like, trying to get a better view. Yeah, I can't tell if these are actual Dominion pieces or just foreign floors for the main walkway part, but the ramps and the walls themselves are for sure Dominion. Now notice the water. These are the old waterfalls. They usually come in as a kind of a dull gray, but you can see it. I'm 99% positive that they've color shifted these to be a more bluish green. So that gives you a little bit more flexibility if it's not as a pretty color as you would like. And I thought it worked really well, the color shifting of it. I think there's another example of them changing the color elsewhere, if I recall correctly. It could be on the other plot of theirs too. I'm not really positive. Now you can tell that most of the landscaping is obsidian stones. Others choose to use the gray stones as a favorite, but there are other, if you're wanting a different kind of rock, like say a dark brown, a lot of the fence posts from, like, I think it's either the Falcon or the Draken ones, maybe even the Pell, I think. Some of them now, not the lamps, because those will count against your light count, but the fence posts and sometimes the gates and stuff have those nice big brown rocks. I've shown where I've used them for certain things, and those would also be used for some nice different kinds of variations in stone. But the obsidian, I think, is probably one that a lot of builders earlier on used quite a bit, because again, we didn't have the options of the different stones. But yeah, you can see even as it is, you can get a lot of variation by just twisting it, turning it, resizing it, and it looks all different. It doesn't look like the same stone at all, even though it likely is. I like how they've been able to extend this out quite a bit, and again, that's part of just it being one big piece. It's one big upside down snowy hill. And again, you can see how they've used the grass patches to help guide the visitor, adding in different grasses and brambles and things. So here we have a little campground. Just a simple thing. There's not a whole lot here. You can see they've got, it looks like sleeping bags, but you only see parts of it. I don't know if that's on purpose or what. It seems like maybe they put them in and then added in the ground and then forgot to lift the sleeping bags up, so they're not all showing. That's all I can figure on that, because even the fire pit here, a lot of the stones are missing. Not that it looks bad, it's just that's my suspicion, that the ground has been raised a bit and they just didn't make any adjustments that they might needed. So all back here, it's kind of like military reinforcements. They've got the landing pads here for the ships that come in. You see glimpses of the castle part up above. Now there is one little secret passage here using the Taurine stone door, a big fave of folks, because it blends in so well with the stones that we have available for landscaping. And this is an example of how it looks like they've color shifted the water from its natural gray to, rather than the blue greenish from the outside, they've turned it golden. So it's like liquid gold here to kind of match with this hidden stash of treasure. This edging here, I think that's the edge of the frame. I don't recall what the picture is actually called, but it's the one with the skeleton face with the little red thing in his eye. and it looks like octopus tentacles all around the picture frame. I've seen a lot of people use it for like bathroom mirrors and stuff. Same with this. I'm not sure what this is, if it's like the edge of some of those Dominion pieces, or if it's some kind of a, I suspect it's probably more like an Eldon piece, but I don't know for sure what it looks like. It just looks like some really nice golden piping. This here is one of those taurine uh, bits. I forget what it's called, forge or something. Lots of the treasure piles. Those are the ones with the vases and such in it. There's one of those pictures. He's got that red thing in his eye. It's the same thing being used for the trim here. But it looks like they might have added a few things in just to kind of change it up, like the Winterfest gift pack there and that kind of thing. Now, notice they're using the blazing trail or the burning track. I forget what it's called. RMC portrait, that's the name of it. Thank you, Aurora. To make it look like this stem dragon is actually breathing fire to protect its hoard of treasure, which I thought was kind of a clever use of the burning track. I've got like tons of those and I've never used a single one, which is shameful, but there you go. But again, I think they've thrown in certain things just to kind of change up the look, so it doesn't look so repetitive. We've seen some treasure rooms where the bits are just plopped down and they don't add anything to it, and it looks a little monotonous that way. And I really like how they've added a few pieces. Now this area actually leads up. You can actually go up the stones here, and it'll take you to the side of the mansion up above. But I'm going to backtrack. But you can see they've kind of got this little canyon type of thing going on. So you can see part of the castle up there. You can actually get up it, but I'm not going to do that from this side. Pardon me. Got a little bit of a scratchy throat this morning. The last couple of days have been fighting some sinus stuff, so trying to keep it at a minimum with the coughing because I really don't want to catch a cough. You can see they've still managed to use a variety of trees and brambles. There's burnt ones, there's the ones you would imagine in a desert area. I forget what these things, a thorny something or whatever. There's ones that you would imagine being predominantly in Celestion, those curvy oriny plants. There's a little bit of a gap here, but it just runs into stone. So again, I couldn't find any way of getting actually underneath the obsidian rocks where I would imagine that the house or whatever is located, so couldn't figure out. Again, most of the Dominion fencing and archways and stuff, it's all predominantly from that builder's kit that you can get from the cash shop. Now I'm kind of going off the path here because I want to get to a high point here so you can get a good view of the castle. Can't get no. Oops. I'm gonna get stuck here. Yeah, I think I got myself stuck. Let me zap out. Let's try that again. Maybe I'll come from the other side. Let's go this way. Oh, that's probably not going to work either. Well, here's a front view. You can see they're matching the archway that they had down below for the little entrance area of it. Now, if we come to the back here, this is where you would come up from the little canyon below. This is where we were when we come out of the treasure room. I did manage to get up on top of this. Let's see. I'm like the worst at jumping, so do bear with me here. I forgot how I did this. There we go. So here's a bird's eye view of the mansion. So you can see how they've done the ceiling. You can see they've used a lot of the Dominion pieces for the walls, and then just glass for the upper part. Now because the glass is still fairly see-through, they've used individual panels for each little block here. Some might actually use like one big one for, maybe like for a room, and then overlap it to get some different kinds of line designs, but this one chose to use individual bits. But just an idea of what it looks like from above. Again, using the older water bits, the waterfalls and the winding river, but color shifting it to make it look a little different. Again, mostly obsidian stone for all of the rock bits that you see on the property. This here, of course, is the Osun portcullis. This is some of that ornate fencing. And then we go inside. Using the round rugs as a bit of a runway to the throne here. Now, for the base, there's a number of things that have this gold look, but based on some of how the reflective look is, I suspect it's an upside down Dominion bed. It has that gold surface, but it also could be, we have a gold lighter, and then there's the back of the air conditioner. Any of those, I think, would have similar. I think the lighter is a little bit more dull, not as shiny as this. And I think the back of the Dominion bed has a bit more of a design on it. So it's very possible this is just an oversized air conditioner. But that's the only things I can think of off the top of my head that has this gold bit that would be not cumbersome in other parts that they would have to hide with this big to accommodate being the entire floor. So yeah, it's just one way of getting a different kind of surface. It's the Dominion, the Macari chair. I want to say it's from a decor kit that you can get off the cash shop, but I'm not for positive on that. I don't remember. For me particularly, I'm not too keen on the Dominion style or the Macari style. They're a little bit too bright for my liking, so I don't really collect them as much. I mean, I have a few pieces just by accident of picking them up from random drops and stuff, but yeah. Notice they even dressed the, yeah, these are the royal, celestial royals. It's got like the pretty fancy clothing. Probably the next big thing is how they use the golden arrows as not only, it's like double time, it's decoration, but also as the railing for the upstairs parts. And again, you can see the entire ceiling or roof is like a giant skylight. Now this little podium here, I think that's just Oran floors. So let's go on the lower area of the castle first. Why is what? I lose my train. It's a little delayed, so it's hard to follow a question. Here's an example. I think last week we toured a place that had the bookshelves just completely open and visible, and we discussed how some people like to cover them up just to make them look a little bit different. Uh, Here they're using the Oran arches to make it look a little fancier. It's not required or necessary. I mean, even if they just had the bare, but it just looks a little cleaner to me, a little neater, classier. Yes, it's not completely smooth and flat, but that's because some of the bits of the bookshelf itself actually sticks out quite a ways where the feet are. But it just looks nice, doesn't it? It just fits very smoothly. Bones, you're so bad with your puns and stuff. Notice this is probably one of the rare occasions where we actually see the blue, bright blue of the Exile fireplace. Typically, most people like to cover that one up, myself included. And we've seen a variety of ways, but it's not a bad piece. It's just, I don't know. It's again, it's a little gaudy on the bright side for my taste. Here we have a bit of a church. Notice they're using the emblems nicely to decorate the floor. Apparently there's a funeral that's about to commence. And I think these are actual chandeliers. They're strange looking in my opinion, but and just like the sconces here, I always think that they're upside down. I would turn them the other way, but that's just a personal thing, I guess. I don't know why. It's the same way with the chalice. I always want to turn it a different direction. Back here, uh, it's just a seating area. Uh, I think it's just because of a lot of the Dominion furniture has that gold trim. People really go overboard with the gold. Uh, there's a lot of pieces that have it, so it's really easy to mix and match. But they do a good job of blending it all in. Because even the Draken pots, those are gold looking, gold coppery, especially in this lighting. But here's a little balcony area, leads outside. Notice they don't do a lot of decorating, and I like that. It doesn't look too cluttery. It looks very clean and fancy. Here's the dining room. Again, lovely fireplace. The dining table is just two of the Dominion conference tables stuck together to extend it out a bit, which is a smart use of those. Then over here is the kitchen. Again, still kept pretty simple. As far as the cabinetry here, I honestly am not sure if these are, I suspect all of the cabinetry is actually travel posters, but the bottom ones have been color shifted to a brown just to make them pop a little differently. But the surface looks the same to me, so that's what I suspect has happened. Again, the color shifting, and if you use it strategically, I think is the word I want to say. Um, it can really make a big difference in how something looks. I mean, this looks nice and clean. They keep the smoothness and everything that you would normally get with the travel posters, but just changing certain aspects of it really makes it pop nicely. Of course, the kitchen sink that comes from the boxing gym fab kit. I think you actually have to complete it before you can get a chance of that. If you just go through, I think it's the fourth challenger, then you get a chance at one of the two towels, either the lop one with the carrot and bunny on it, or the striped one. That's usually what I do. I never have been able to finish that challenge, so I just go for the towels when I want some extras. So we're on the upstairs now. Most of these are just bedrooms, if I remember correctly. Just pretty simple. It's not that you couldn't go into more detail. I'm sure they could have. It's also possible that they reached their decor limit and had to decorate sparingly. I think a lot of people that create these big homes often find that I've had a lot of builders speak of problems of trying to decide what to use, how to decorate each room. You know, one of the things you want to go through is like, do you want a bathroom, kitchen, living room, dining room? You want a library, an office, a kid's room, that kind of thing. And a lot of them will build these big houses and divvy up, and they'll have like 20 spaces and can't figure out how to designate each space. So sometimes I think it's better to plan ahead in that regard so that you don't overbuild, because then you come up with places where you're not really sure what to put in there, and you just kind of leave a lot of the space open and empty. So here's the bathroom. It looks like a public one, so there's multiple sinks. The base of it is just those ornate cabinets, the ones a lot of people like to use for the bank vaults and personal wall safes because it's got that funny handle thing on the front. The tub, notice the bright blue. Again, I believe this is the regular waterfall and winding rivers being color shifted to be a little bit more believable as a water type. Outside it was more of kind of a aqua bluish green. We saw the gold version, and now this is the natural blue version. Notice they color shifted the Chua cups as well to indicate cold and hot water taps. A chimney for the little spout up there. I love the little washer here. It's very simple. Now this is that air conditioner that I think that they're using for the floor down below. See how it's got that gold and then the texture of it. It's smooth but really shiny. I think that's what they're using for the floors on the base of it. But here they have a Chua cup for the lip of the door, and then a glass that looks like it's been inset inside to make it look like the clear glass of the tub. So like 3 pieces for a washer. Very simplified, but it's easily identifiable, and that's really what matters when it comes to stuff like that. I love their little clothesline here. This is probably the first time I've seen the laser fences used in this way, and I thought it was a really smart use of it, especially if you just have like a stray one and you're not sure what to do with it. This is a great example of some clever placement of materials. So they've got some of the striped towels strung up on there. They could have hung other things as well, but I thought this was a fun idea, rather than resorting to using the traditional clotheslines that are whipping in the wind when inside there wouldn't really be any kind of a breeze. Hey Flood, good morning. Glad you could join. Then they're using the red moon trapdoors for the bathroom stalls. Yes, it looks a little weird with the doors going inside the walls, but if you can kind of get past that, it's a nifty idea to have functioning doors for your stalls. Of course, it makes it a little tricky to select it. We won't talk about the toilets. We'll just skip those. And over here we have the kiddies' room, noticeable by the toys strung around, the bunk beds. You can see they've got metal edge 2x4s to kind of be as the joints linking the two beds together. Some get a little bit more elaborate than that. I did a decor challenge way back for bunk beds, and people use not only existing beds in double with extras to kind of dress it up, but some built it from scratch using the 2x4s and travel posters and things like that. So really simplified version. It's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 pieces for this little bunk bed set, if you include the ladder. And I think that's it for the mansion. Again, depending probably on how much decor count they have left, because remember there's a lot of things going on outside, underneath, all of the water bits, all of the plants, all of that adds up really fast. So probably depending on that, someone else could use a similar layout and manage to fill it up a lot more. Sometimes I'm astounded to what people can fit in, and others make it purposefully kind of I hate to use the word simplified, but they don't want all of that extra clutter. I mean, you could put more plants in, have more statues and wall decorations and things, but I think the clean, again, I hate to use the word simple, but I like this. It looks yeah, minimal. That's probably the best way to say it, minimal. I like that kind of building too. I think both have their day to run. It just depends, because we've come across some that actually aim for clutter, kind of an organized chaos. We've seen some bars, especially like the Granock style, where it's like they just put every single item that they possibly had in their crate and just shoved it into the space. And it looks haphazard, but it's done very carefully. And it's actually more complicated to do that kind of stuff rather than keep this minimalist look. But I enjoy both. So, you know, I don't think it's not that you have to put in so many details. You can keep it minimal like this and still have it really look nice and classy. And for this kind of style, Dominion mansion castle thing, I think it works really well. Austere, yeah, that's good. Yeah, flat. I think a lot of builders do, and it's. I think it puts off a lot less stress if they keep it minimal like that, because then they're not. Because I know there's some builders that aim to purposefully max out their decor count, because it's like a goal to reach. But others, I think, prefer to keep it simple. Dang, I can't stop clearing away from that word. Uh, Minimalist, but achieving a really nice grand look. So this works really well for me. I would be happy to have a plot like this. So again, this is on the plot of Quicksilver Autobot, but it is built by Bubbles. Again, I don't know if it was a commission work or just something that they built for a friend of theirs, but you can see the signature here on the rock near the entrance. So the second place we're going to visit today is Particle Destroyer. Yeah, that does make sense, Bones. And I know there's others that are the same. I like adding, I think that's why I get into a lot of details and stuff. Um, uh, that's why I like Aurora. I like the mini plots because I like to go in with uh, the custom stuff as well. So getting to the decor cap is really easy there that way. But yeah, Aurora and me are kind of on the same wavelength when it comes to the style of building we prefer for ourselves. But I uh, admire those that can get away with using less, but still have something as impactful as the things that we visited today and in the past. So as I said, I didn't realize the earlier plot was by Bubbles until I was looking around this morning and I happened to notice the sign. But this one too is another Bubbles work by Bubbles. Um, Again, I don't know if it's for a friend or it's an actual commission work, but I like the idea, the concept of it. So I thought I would go ahead and show it as well. Again, uh, this is using the winding rivers for most of the waterworks. Now, yes, there's, like, you can see the seams of the rivers, but they did a good job of making sure that the water flow is all kind of similar. They've used, I think it's some of the, um, what do you call it? The Protostar Insta-Hills for the little sand bars around the edges. Look at these little raised grounds. I don't know if this is supposed to be like their version of a Titanic because they've got these glaciers from the Arctera area where it's like crashed through, or if it's meant to represent like the waves of the water coming off the ship as it's pushing through the water. It's either or. I kind of think it's more the latter, but I could be wrong. So this is Particle Ship on the plot of Particle Destroyer, but it is built by Bubbles. Yeah, that's true. Or about the bunker. Well, Flood. I think that's why a lot of us builders become altaholics because we have so many ideas, and we end up kind of, or at least I do. That's why I have a lot of unfinished projects. I'll think of things and I'll put it here and there, and then and that's another reason why I like the mini plots is because I might have a lot of ideas, but not enough to spread out. Or I'm not really good at thinking big, so I prefer to kind of make it a little bit more compact. But yeah, I think that's why a lot of us go, because we have so many ideas and just we don't know where to put it all. So here's a little beach scene. We've got the Oran landing pad. They're using some of the carcasses of the gar uh, beasts for crocodiles in the water. This is almost like an Easter Island with the giant statues. Boardwalks for the planks leading out to the water. You can tell that the water's pretty close on the edge there. There's really not much depth. It's like mid-thigh, or not mid-thigh, mid-calf there. There's the little, what do you call that, the dinghy boat. And they've added benches so you can actually sit in the boat, like a functional seat rather than doing just the emote one. Yeah, that does hurt. That's another reason why I think a lot of us kind of go smaller, because when you're doing like a custom house, that uses up so much decor because you're not just building the house itself, you're also adding in the decorations inside the house, all of the appliances and furniture and stuff. But then you have to worry about the landscaping outside, and I think having a big full-on plot, it's really easy to get a little too detailed on that. And again, it eats up. That's why we've come across a lot of homes that are custom but sparsely furnished because of that. Uh, this here, they've used a lot of obsidian stone, and then they've got that matriarch cave or what, excuse me, to make it look like a little cavern. Again, Protostar Insta-Hills for these little sand bits. And again, I'm assuming that these bits are supposed to be like waves. This is another Insta-Hill. It's the one with the hole in the middle. So you can see the ship here, the boat, ship, craft, whatever you want to call it. I think this is supposed to be like a pirate flag kind of thing, rather than the mast. Now the mast with the sails, we've seen some use actual curved walls. That's probably the favorite. Here's another little camp area. I'm trying to think. There's some that have actually used the flags. I think I've seen some use like the wolf flags, and there's also been the Merc one that they're using for the flag up here as actual sails. I've seen a few use like they've actually built it with like either flat pieces and then kind of put them in multiple to make the curve. Some have used the tribal mats, both flat for open ones and then the rolled ones to make it look like it's a docked ship. Those are probably the second fave. Use bananas. Well, yeah, I guess that would work too. They're kind of curved and everything. So here's the ship. There's some engine parts, probably from Space Chase or something. There's the domes, curved walls, flat exile walls. They're using decking railing. Here they've got, I think these are the Draken like practice pillars or something, training pillars, one of those. This is probably a fave for any kind of water scene with boats and beaches and stuff, but it's kind of a rare item. It's the life preserver. But if you can get a hold of it, that's a good way. Now, there might be a way that someone could cleverly come up with using the soda cups and making a circle with those. The best I've done is candy canes with those. So I know you can get a bit of a curve, but the trick is trying to hide that silly straw that sticks out. So I don't know how easy it would be, but I imagine if you can't get a hold of an actual life preserver, you might consider trying to finagle your way into one by using the soda cups, because the soda cups have the red and white kind of look, and I know it works well for candy canes, so I'm kind of assuming maybe you could squeeze out a kind of a sort of lumpy dumpy sphere shape for a life preserver if you can't get a hold of the real thing. Just kind of throwing that idea out there. You got a little bit of storage here. And then we go below decks, and we've got some of the cots and things for the ship hands, the crew. Little bar for their entertainment. This is some of that Osun graded flooring that you get from the Arctera area. Comes relatively quick, so here's the kitchen and dining. Now notice the smoke coming from the, I think it's the toxic barrels. That's the only kind of annoying thing for those that has the really long smoke trails. It does kind of permeate through anything else. So if you don't want that showing like that, you'll have to figure out a more clever placement of either putting in walls to cover that up, or coming up with another excuse as to why there's smoke in that particular area. These chain links, those are from the housing vendor, I think. Either that or they come from the art carrot spot as well. Not sure what they have that for. Wait, I missed this part. If you go down even further, again, there's those toxic barrels. Oops, let me go this way. Got a little private bedroom. And then some additional bunker space. And then the bathroom. And then there is actual access to the bunker house. They've actually built the boat on top of it so that there would be guaranteed access. And they're using it as the little further underground for the treasure pile. And this is an example of using the same treasure pile repeatedly without adding in too many extras, and it looks very similar throughout. There's just a few extra pieces thrown in. I like how this looks, just a little bare, like someone uncovered this particular bit. But it's one way of using, I think a lot of people, when they have the bunker house, once they get it and then they start changing the themes, they always have trouble trying to figure out what to put in this particular room. It usually becomes like an underground dance hall or some kind of a cave kind of feature. But I think we've seen some clever builders. I don't know if it was last week or the week before where we came across one where they actually made an exterior on the interior. And I thought that was a clever, fun use of that particular space. You can see they're using the tentacles from the Red Moon stuff to make it look like an aquatic, I don't know, kraken beast or something, some kind of giant octopus. They've got the open maw here for the mouth. But again, I think these are supposed to be splashes of water from the ship coming through, rather than like an iceberg kind of thing that is crashing into. I suspect it's supposed to represent the motion of the water. Yeah, I'm looking forward to you finishing it, Aurora. So definitely mail me when that's the case. Okay, the last place we're going to visit today, and I'm fairly confident it is not a Bubbles original. I don't remember seeing the signature on that one. But it is Evictus Neros. And this is called the Mountain Mansion. And this is a good example of framing a scene really nicely. They've got the trees on either side of the path, but you see the house right there. Very visible from a distance, which is a good plus. I've shown some of the places that I built where the materials I used are so finicky about the rendering from a distance that you don't actually see the house. And this one's really nice and visible, so I appreciate that they managed to find materials to make it out of that don't actually disappear from a distance. But look at how they've dressed up the entrance here. Hey Doshi, glad you could join. So we have a combination of curved glass, and again, remember, any of the glasses, whether it's framed, unframed, curved, the more you layer it up, the brighter it becomes. So there's curved glass not only for this part, but here too. And so it's really bright back here, but as they get more to the front, it becomes less and less because it's layered less. That's where you get into really some fancy patterns and things, depending on how you overlay the glass. But look at how, because see, it's dark enough. I mean, you can see kind of the edging of the plot there, but from like here, it just looks nice and bright blue. It just looks pretty. They've got some of the mossy overgrowth and then a little bit of waterfalls too, just to add a little different. But it looks It would be great for a kind of a park, a fancy like outdoor theater kind of thing. This would be a great entrance for that. Uh, but yeah, the walkway here. This is that honey thing. I don't know the name of it, but it's like one piece, and they've used it as the walkway here. Just to kind of, it just makes the entrance look a little different because they're covering the ramp. They've tried to disguise it with using bushes and things, but I thought this was a nice change here. Rope bridges for the downward slope. Now, take a look at the landscaping. This is something I'm horrible at, so I greatly admire those that can really pull it off nicely and make it look natural. You can see they've chosen to use the gray stones. So it's basically the same rock, just used over and over, different sizes, flipped, rotated, and then most of the land itself is actually the protostar insta-hills to give all these different little mounds and elevations. But you can see that they've also used something to cause the ground to look like it just goes off into the distance. How great is that? Very sparse on the trees, and of course there isn't very much clutter. Part of that is because any part of the ground is actually the ground surface of the plot. If you have the clutter on and then you have these insta-hills, you can immediately see where those start and stop because the clutter doesn't extend up like you would hope. So they've left it nice and smooth. It works well. They've added a few bits of grasses like here, just to kind of cover up bits that they maybe just wanted to end the path so it doesn't reach all the way to the rock, that kind of thing. See if we can get up high over here. There's a good shot of the mansion on the hill here. Now it looks a little odd, and I think that's, again, as part of the rendering thing. I don't think there's actually a gap here, but you can see most of it shows up pretty good. I like just the little flower just here and there. I don't know if it's an umbrella tree or what. I suspect it could be, or it might just be a really oversized upside down snowy hill that they've kind of put underneath all of this stuff. I really don't know what's being used, to be honest. Those are the only two things that I can think of that are nice and flat, and but you can see it extends quite a ways out. It just melts off into the bit. And look, they even managed to get one of the oversized winding rivers to make it look like a water lake out there. But that's all beyond, and it's just because they've oversized. So here's another great shot of the mansion, a little bit better view. I love the landscaping though. Again, I've tried this on a few of my own plots and it never comes off like this. But you can imagine how many stones they had to use to get this to look like it. Here's another view of the mansion. You can see there's even some fab kits. This is one of the biome ones. I don't know which one offhand, to be honest. But you can see there's a little bit of where the entrance is. It could be that they left it on purpose, added it in, and then just built around it, or if it was one that was there and they just didn't bother getting rid of it and just built around it that way. I have no idea. Yeah, the layout is great. There's enough little trees and breakup. It's not too plain or minimalistic, I guess is the best word. But there's enough variety in how they put the croppings of rock and stuff. Like this, even with the biome here, it just looks nice. I don't think there was anything like hidden out here. I didn't see any kind of like little door or any little hidey hole kind of deal. So let's meander our way over to the mansion itself. Now this is another plot where, again, I couldn't find any entrance or whatever to a underground house. I think basically it would be under the stone somewhere, the main part. But it looks to me that they focused on the exterior only. So here's the mansion, and I'm sure a number of you guys will be going, "Oh my gosh," because it is definitely custom. The brick, that's just the brick pile, and they've used it for the stairs and the base or the foundation of the building. It's mostly granite walls for the outer surface, trimmed with 2x4s. Got a little bit of that Dominion fencing going on to give it those special little stones. You've got some granite pillars for accents. For the roofing, it appears to be mostly a difference between the 2x4s and then travel posters in some places. Again, 2x4s for even this little curved bit. How amazing is that? Notice the really small ones up here. But how fantastic to be able to get it rounded like that, and everything is just awesome. 2x4s for most of the roofing up top, and you've got travel posters for this part, including this little, it's kind of another curved part. It's what I call like a bay window kind of deal going on, just for the upstairs and down below as well. Yes, there is some glitchiness as far as where the walls and such are perfectly overlapping. There's not a whole lot you can get around on that. See if I can, well, we'll just go inside and we'll check out the upper part once we reach the patio out here. WildStar housing, in my opinion, is pretty big. We've toured like close to 400 homes so far over the past several years, and there's still tons and tons that I haven't seen. And they get fancier and more clever in their constructions as time goes on, as people become more familiar with how the system works and how they collect, and playing around with ideas of textures and things. So yeah, it's probably my fave aspect of the entire game. I'm not big on rating and stuff, but that's just a personal preference. There's a lot of people that don't even touch housing. It just depends on what you're looking for in your game. No, it's not been out that long. I've been streaming for a little over 2 years, and I think it was actually running maybe a year or so before that. Yeah, Bones, me too. It's pretty much all I do. Yeah, apart from collecting money to figure provide for your building habit. Okay, so this particular house, there's a lot of things going on. Again, this is the brick pile that we saw as part of the foundation. The bay windows, you can see, again, I told you by using the glass and arranging them in certain ways, you can get some really pretty designs. Just look how complicated this design looks. It's just layered glass positioned in such a way that you have this really nice pattern. Yeah, 2014, that's it. So, you know, it's been a while, but not super long. It's a fairly still kind of new game. There's still a lot of things being developed for it. In fact, with the housing, they're working on bringing in communities where we can join multiple players into one huge plot kind of thing. So lots of stuff coming. But you can see it's, I don't know how many pieces. There's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like, I don't know, 10 to 15 different panels to make up a single window. But how pretty and elegant does that look? 2x4s for the trimming. Over here for the wall, it's the backs of those portraits. I forget which one specifically. I think it's, I really don't know which one. Using the Dominion banners as capstock, coat hangers, I guess would be the term. For the floor here, I think a single square is the top or bottom of the ornate chest. I think that's what that is. It's the only thing I can think of that has this nice little indentation here. It might be that they've color shifted a little bit because I think it's originally looks more gold. It's the same stuff that we saw in the Dominion Mansion earlier. So I want to say they might have color shifted it to tone it down a bit, but that's the only item I can think of that could possibly create this pattern. So imagine how many pieces are being used to make this. Just like the couch here, I think they've toned it down. Not only that, but blended it with the exotic couch as well. So it gives a little bit of trim along the leather, but it makes the exotic one functional by being able to actually use it. Because the exotic one doesn't have any collisions, so that kind of bites. The wallpaper here, you'll see all along here, those are the streamers. There's 2 versions, the Exile and Dominion. Now, again, I don't know what all parts they might color shift, because just by looking at some of this, it looks like they might have color shifted some, but I don't know if these are just naturally the Dominion style, because I think it's more red. But I suspect they color shifted it to get the off color of the patch, or it's the Exile wall and they've just laid the streamers out intermittently to get the stripe pattern. It's either or. I suspect the latter though. Yeah, because this looks like it's just flat wall. They didn't add the stripe in. Again, layered glass, different pattern this time. It looks more like mountains to me. I love the color choice as well. It's a lot of red, but it's not like bright red. Notice the fireplace here. It's also the brick piles. That's why it looks a little jaggedy along here, but you know, they did a good job of blending it in. A framed glass here and just some, it looks like the tree tables, the bases, and they're just using them as like little log pieces rather than the traditional log piles that a lot of us use. And notice this doesn't even have a fire. A lot of us prefer to have it lit up and crackling, and this one chose not to. Now, I suspect that the way they've got this nice dark black back is it's possibly that they used either a maintenance platform and the back side of the graded floor panel. I haven't gone into this room yet, so I don't know if it extends out, but it could also possibly be the cellar entrance, and they just managed to cover up the edges with the brick. But I suspect it's one of the first 2, because I imagine there's like some space behind there. But notice the picture frames, they're using that all along the wall just to kind of make it look a little different. Now these parts here, I think that's those taurine forges. Same thing we saw in that treasure cave earlier, but I think the fiery part or the bubbly part is down below. The floor here, the tiled floor, those are the bottoms of bottles. I think this is one of the wine bottles and this is one of the orange bottles. How complicated, and just think of again how many pieces are being used for this. The wall here is Draken walls with books for the little countertop here. These like turtle shell images, those are the Draken gong. It's just the very bottom one overlapped onto the granite wall. There's Draken fencing here for the stone part. The cabinets are the same pieces I suspect that are being used for the pattern floor here, and they've just covered up the end so you don't see that pattern. And it looks like they're covering it up with books here. This is, it's not a landing pad, it's like one of those things that's like a little tower, and they're just using the very tip top of it to like a little basket. This cabinetry up here, that's a tiki bar, and then topped with, yeah, see here's that, you can see it better, the tops of that cabinet. The same thing being used for the entire floor. So again, think of how many pieces being used for that. Just a lot of detail, and it kind of explains why there's not a lot going on outside. And look at this interesting floor and space. This is the bathroom, super fancy looking. You've got exonite walls for the upper part. It looks like travel posters for the bottom. A little bit of that Osun graded floor for a little design on the edge here. These are the Dominion conference tables with glass layered on to make it look like mirrors. The tub here, I think, is a goblet. And then, I'm not sure what all this is. This is the, it's not the fancy bar, it's, oh shoot, what's it called? What's it called? I'm just going to call it the fancy bar. I know that's not the name, but it's the Dominion version of the bar. Being part of it, they've color shifted some of the bottles to make them look a little different. If you're wondering about the carpet here, I'm not quite sure what's being used for the actual black base of it, but the little colored parts, the little tiles here, those are plastic coins, and they're just sunk them down low enough that you see just the upper layer, and that's what those are. Charming bar, yes. Thank you, Flood. I never remember that. I always call it fancy for some reason, and it just sticks in my head. But yeah, I'm not sure what this is. If any of you recognize what that actually is, it's a honeycomb pattern. I wonder if it's the exonite pillars that have been color shifted to black and white. I suspect that might be that. I'm not really sure, because even these look a little dulled down. So, oh, was it? Is that why it sticks in my head like that? Because I always want to call it that. Now I'm not sure what's being used for the water here. It could be another. It could be a chalice bottom for the water. I really don't know. Well, Doshi, the best way to explain that is like these, the plastic stack of coins. Let me see if I can, I don't know if I can call that up or not. Just to show a quick example. Here's a stack of plastic coins. It looks like money, and a lot of people use it as that, and that's all they ever use it for is actual money, a pile of coins. But what the person here did is they enlarged it quite a bit, flipped it over, and just are showing the surface of them to make a decoration for their floor. It's just like this item here, this chest that they're using as a fridge. This single piece is also making up the floor pattern here, and the cabinetry here and here. It's using an item not necessarily as it's intended. It's like the piles of bricks, the brick pile. It's being used as not only flooring but also part of the fireplace. And that creativity, that's what catches a lot of our eye. Just, you know, a plate isn't necessarily always a plate. Sometimes it's a lid to a toilet, or it's a lot about just thinking outside the box and using things in unexpected ways. And I think that's what draws our attention. It's also, you know, there's a lot of people that like to create things that are recognizable from other games or books or movies, and recreating them here. And I mean, we've seen a lot of like Star Wars and World of Warcraft and Bioshock and Alice in Wonderland kind of things, and it's fun to be able to recreate those things into this world. It's the same thing for people liking Minecraft and Rift with their dimensions and stuff. We have holiday related plots. Not all of them are personal residences like this. Some of them are, we've seen like ships, you know, not just boats and things, but like spacecraft. We've got like some Star Trekky fans that have actually made the Enterprise. Yeah, Thundercats is another one. There's just basically anything one can imagine, someone can create into this to these spaces, and it's just interesting to see. Just like this little chandelier, that's the Exonite pillars with a lamp stuck inside to make it look like this fancy chandelier here. So yeah, I suspect that these are possibly also the things that's been color shifted to black and white. I really don't know, honestly, what is being used there. That's just my guess, my educated guess. Okay, so up the stairs, and this is where we had that nice little curved part. Again, it's glass panels, and they just offset it a little bit to kind of help that curved shape. 2x4s for this nice smooth staircase. Again, when you make your own staircase, double check it and make sure you can walk up it and down it smoothly. Now look at this pattern here. It's a combination of different types of floors. You got exile, looks like maybe some oran, and then maybe a color shifted version to make it look like a dark purple. And then 2x4s for that nice latticed paneling there. A lot of exotic decor, some dividers. This is a lamp that's upside down to make it look like a pedestal for the plants. This here is that Dominion shelf. It's also called the Imperium shelf, depending on if it's in your inventory or already in your crate. Little walk-in closet. It's mostly decking pieces for a lot of this. The little desk here is mostly, oh, what is this thing? I think it's bars because of the curved bit here, like this is the back of the bar, and same way here, and then it's like the display boxes, the ones that have like the skull and the pearls and the scrolls and stuff being used for the drawers here. Yeah, I think that's the backs of the bars. How clever is that to use that for something different? Not sure why there's maybe this is slightly unfinished because that's just kind of a floating panel there. Again, the layered glass just brings out just some different patterns. The bed here, as best I can tell, it's towels. Some have used actual the snow clumps, or not snow clumps, the snow blocks, like the curved bits and stuff. But I think the towels have that rounded edge that makes it look a little bit more plush. It looks like they've shifted the pink pillows to make them more of a black and white to kind of tone them down a little bit, better match. You're wondering about the little fruit drinks here. That's from the summer decor pack. Out onto the balcony. Again, these are summer decor pack items, the Barbie and the cooler. Here's another overview. So this is like the Dominion screen. Just been overlaid. Give a little pop of color. Look at all the 2x4s though. That's just a lot of detail. Really great construction. I mean, who wouldn't want a little house like this? Custom built. It's got a skylight and everything. Some really awesome detail. Okay, on up the stairs. Let's visit the attic first, I guess. So here's the attic. You can see they even managed to make a little round window here. Just using a combination of 2x4s. It's a little wonky, sort of, like this is a little off edge here. But I love the effort put into this. It's just crazy. Little pattern design, 2x4s. And then the final room is up here. Now this floor is also a square pattern like below, but this one is using the, I believe it's the locked exile chest. It's got that funny pattern on the bottom of it with that little stripe, funny stripe going around the bottom. So again, imagine how many are being used to make up this floor. And then they opted for another type of striped wallpaper. This one, I believe it's the exile version of the streamers. So it comes in a kind of a dark blue against Oran walls. So it's big full Oran walls, and then they use the streamers as the stripes and just have to space them out nicely. It's kind of the same concept I did with the red and white candy cane wallpaper I did for the Winterfest room, the candy room I did. But mine, because it was a prefab space that I used, or it had really thick walls, I wasn't really concerned about what was sticking outside. I got away with just using the edges of the exile wall as the stripe against the white surface of the blank wall. So it just really depends. This works great for a custom house because it's relatively flat. You don't have to worry about too much poking in and out. You can cover up the ends as you wish. Notice the table here, that's a mattress trimmed with 2x4s on top of a medical table. Someone had a little bit of an accident knocking over their flower. The bed here is a combination of one of the bars for the headboard, trimmed with, I think it's that, what was it again? Uh, not the fancy bar, charming bar for a little decoration, some 2x4s for a lot of the framework, a towel for the mattress, a beach towel for the blanket or comforter part, and then this part here is an Oran shelf. For the fancy bits here, those are Hugel portraits. This one is overlaid on top of the regular portrait. It usually looks like, to me, it looks like a little gnome guy that's in the portrait. And I'm not sure what they're using for the gray that covers it up. It could be a travel poster that's just inset just perfectly, so it just fills up this part. This here is one of the bookcases, I think, and it's been patched over with, well, this looks like those same display cabinets or Hugel portraits, and I don't know what else is back here. Maybe it's another one of the bookshelves, just smaller and stuck inside, so it looks like a little wardrobe cabinet kind of thing. Really cleverly put together. I know Aurora uses the Hugel portraits in a lot of detail work, so I'm sure she appreciates that. Again, got the little skylight here. But just look how cozy this feels. There's not a whole lot going on. I mean, there's lots of detail and custom work to it, but it doesn't feel overly cluttered or anything. But like I said, who wouldn't want a little house like this? I only wish I were that clever to put something like this together. I've tried, I've got something not even close to this complex and fancy. Here's some even hover park pieces, which is another favorite building piece for those that are into the architecture. So there we go. What a lovely little home. A lot of detail. I imagine like 90% is in the house and the rest is landscaping. And they still managed to do quite a bit with the landscaping, as many stones and things that they used. I don't know what order they built it in. Maybe they built the house first and then saw what they had left over and just used as much as they could. I would imagine this one is one of those plots that's actually maxed out to the 2,500 pieces. I'm amazed that they were able to put so much detail into this as it was. So yeah, that is Mountain Mansion by Evictus Neros. So I hope the houses that we visited today, again, as always, I hope they've given you guys some ideas, some interesting uses of some of the items that you might not have thought about before and are wondering, how can I use that now that I've seen it in that, used in that way. But you know, as we do these tours and we see all of the different interpretations of people's ideas as far as how they put buildings together, the things that they used for the details like the cabinetry and the furniture, you know, we've seen some that actually use just the furniture pieces as they come, which is perfectly fine. And then others that, you know, go above and beyond. I think there's right times and places to use either or. Granted, you know, those of us that are really into the custom work, obviously we would want to put, you know, make everything custom if we could. But practically that's not doable as much as we would probably like, because again, we work within the constraints of the decor limits and our imaginations, of course. So it's always a great challenge to see what people can come up with. I can give the same items to a handful of people, and then we'll come up with, 5 different people will come up with 5 different ways of combining those same items and make it look unique and personal. And I think that's what a lot of us builders enjoy, is stretching our creativity and imaginations and coming up with things that are uniquely our own, um, and sharing that with others, because it's always fun to see how other people do it and come up with new and fun ways of interpreting it on our own. And I hope that you guys take away some inspiration from the places that we visit each week. So yeah, we're going to leave it there, guys. Thank you again for joining. Appreciate all of the support that I get and that I have continued to get over the last few years. Not just word of mouth advertising, letting your friends and guildmates know, but also the tweeting and the retweeting and the hosting, and just sharing your ideas, letting me know when you see a house that hasn't been toured yet that you think deserves a tour. I'm always open to those suggestions and stuff. We've literally been to hundreds and hundreds of homes, and there's still probably hundreds and hundreds more to go. So, as we continue on, I hope to continue sharing these amazing works with you. Not every builder that we come across is as verbal or loud about advertising their own works. We have a few builders that like to often post in the forums, or they'll tweet out pictures of their plots, but I think the majority don't. So this is our opportunity to kind of give them a spotlight of sorts, and kind of save a little keepsake for people that might miss out on it, because even though a lot of us will leave our builds up for a long period of time, if not indefinitely, there are those builders that, we only have limited space of characters, and when they come up with new ideas, they have to get rid of old plots to make way for new. So there's a lot of builds that we've covered that just don't exist anymore. They've moved on to other things. So it's one way of capturing their ideas and creativity in a way that, even though someone might come across their plot on the videos a year or two later, and while it might not be visible in the game anymore, they can still see the creativity that that builder put in to a work from the past. So yeah, the more we can visit, the better. And of course, we want to help inspire not only veteran builders, but new builders alike, in showing them that really, whatever your imagination can come up with, you or someone else can make a reality. Someone dreamed up this little plot and turned it into an amazing example of what one can do if given the time and gumption to put it together. So I hope you guys had fun today. Again, we'll be back next week. It'll be back on Entity. Again, we visit both regions and we switch between the two each week. And we do visit plots on both factions. In fact, all 3 homes today are from Dominion side specifically. So there's no limitation as far as where I go and who I visit, other than we're looking for interesting homes. It doesn't necessarily have to be full of custom building, but that is a preference of mine, just because of my desire to be inspired to build my own stuff in that regard. But if it's an interesting theme or just some clever ideas and stuff, I'll be sure to include those too. So yeah, good luck on all your own projects, whatever you might be working on. I know there's a lot of builders that have been putting off some of their work lately with the prospect of the communities becoming available later this year. So this might be the time to kind of pull back, jot down some ideas, do some brainstorming, and be planning ahead for when that comes. Others are taking the opportunity to just work on some smaller projects, maybe working on plans of different ways of putting certain furniture together in preparation for when they might use it for later on. Some, I suspect, are probably already getting their feelers out to other builders that might want to group up with them to create a community. That might be something, start putting out the feelers. And others like myself are just kind of taking a bit of a hiatus. I come back every week for the tours, of course, but I've kind of drawn back from the game a little bit just to take a break, recoup, and hopefully we'll be ready when the communities come out to kind of get a little bit more involved. But whatever your plans are, I hope you guys have a wonderful week, and hopefully we'll see you again soon. Until then, have a great day, and goodbye. Bye-bye.